Welcome to the TPS Customize screen overview. With TPS, we want you to feel as comfortable as possible. So we've built in a Customize screen that allows you to alter a few areas of TPS. Like what info you have on your client screen, you can make a few minor adjustments to the time entry screen, and even choose whether or not to link TPS with Outlook, and quite a bit more. Come on, let's take a look at that Customize screen so I can explain it a little bit better. On the Customize screen, you see 8 tabs, but you start out on the General tab.
It's important to note that this Customize screen will allow you to customize some aspects of TPS for your personal workstation. It won't affect TPS on other workstations in your office.
This is where you can change the directory for your reports, templates, and invoices. If you've moved things around and you need to change the directory path, this is where you do that. These should be the shared files. If you need to change these, you just click on the Browse button here, find where you have the actual documents, and then, for example, for reports, you need to click on the actual file. So on the .rpt file. For templates, you're looking for the .dot files, and for invoices, you are looking for the doc files. You have a few other options here. Always open the last database. This is if you only have one database and you don't want to go through the process of choosing your database when you first open TPS. Choosing this will make sure you go straight to the login screen. Not TS? Check this if you're not using a terminal server. This prevents you from having multiple instances of the program open at the same time that might cause issues. So if you're not using a terminal server, we suggest that you always have this checked. Your database directory just shows you the actual directory of your database. Under All Clients Balance, the Edit Invoice Number. This is completely optional. When you're entering opening balances, so back when you're first starting up TPS, this allows you to edit the invoice number. Under Tools in the All Clients Balance tool, you would be able to assign invoice numbers in there. And this is only for the first time when you're setting up TPS, so it's not something that you're going to continue to use. On the Outlook tab, you click here to use Outlook with TPS. This is the same as if I went up to Tools and turned on my Outlook connection. Then if you have a client and contact folder in Outlook, you can synchronize that here by pointing your TPS clients to your Outlook TPS client folder here, and your TPS contacts to your TPS contacts folder in Outlook. If you don't want to synchronize these, you don't have to. It's totally optional. The Clients tab, this is where you choose what columns you want to show on your client screen. And if you want to change the wording, you can do that here as well. So maybe instead of sort name, you just want it to say sort. You could change that here. So by checking and unchecking these, you're choosing what you want to see in your client list. So if we get out of here and we come to our client list, it's basically the same thing as right-clicking here and then choosing Choose Columns. Only here we can choose the columns, but we cannot rename them. You can only do that in the Clients tab of the Customize screen. So just for that example I showed you earlier, if I wanted to change sort name to sort, change it here. You can see here it says sort name. If I click Apply and OK, it changed it to sort. The Other tab has several different options, most of which applies to the time entry screen. First of all, you choose your printer for where you want your TPS reports and all of that to go when you want to print stuff. Your time scale is kind of like your office hours. Really what that does, if we come over to the time entry screen, that sets this up over here. So kind of your workday calendar. If I chose this, you see here it says 8 a.m. all the way to 5 p.m. If I change this to 9 a.m., click Apply, and OK, you see that change to 9 a.m. Your Time tab preferences, this is for when you're setting up a new time entry and you're using the tab button and you just want to tab over to each field. First of all, you're choosing, do you like to show the hours/minutes or just the hours, so in decimal point form. So depending on which one of these you choose, when you're doing tab, it will skip the other one. So if I have it set up as hours and minutes, and I'm here, and I tab over, you see it goes to hours and minutes. If I do it again, it'll go straight to amount. It's going to skip right over hours because I had chosen hours and minutes. So it just kind of makes it faster for you when you're tabbing through. You can skip what you don't want to use, and that's some of the other options here will be the same way. You also have to choose, do you want to allow multiple clocks? Which means, are you going to allow your employees to run several timers at the same time? So if they use the time clock and they say, okay, at 7 a.m. I started working on client A's paperwork, and I also want to run a timer for this other client. I want several different clocks going at the same time. If you want that to be allowed, then you click allow multiple clocks. If not, and you only want them to do one clock at a time, then you do not have this clicked. Default minimum time, it's normally defaulted to 6 minutes because 6, we've noticed, gives it a nice round number. But basically this means that any time you use the time clock when doing a time entry, even if you start it and then stop it right away, it will default to 6 minutes or whatever time that you put in here. Suppress engagement field. If you don't use engagements at all, it will make it so that when you're tabbing through, it will skip right over the engagements field. Time client view preference. This is how the client will show up here. So right now I have it just as the name. If I change this to client ID sort name, click apply. As soon as I put a client in here, let's say I choose Cottonwood, it has the client ID and the sort name. I might want to show sort name, name, and client ID. If I click apply, here you can see it changed here. Client box select preference is how you'd like to see it in the drop-down menu for the client. So depending on what you put here, it will affect how you see this drop-down menu. Now, do you want to show inactive prospects and on-hold clients? When you're doing time entries, you might not want those to show up at all. If you don't want them to show up, if you don't want to bother with inactive clients, which usually you don't if you're doing time entries, so you might want to uncheck that if you don't want inactive clients to show up in here, meaning nobody will be able to choose them and enter time for them. So if you don't want inactive or prospects or on holds to show up, make sure that they're unchecked. Whipping time is work in progress. So basically that means as soon as you whip it, it makes that time available to be billed. If you're going through the billing process and you choose a client who has unwhipped time, if you have this selected, it will prompt a pop-up that tells you that this client also has some unwhipped time. Your options at that point are either to go ahead and bill anyways, run the client inquiry so you can post them to whip first, or cancel out of the billing process completely.
Tax question and billing. If you have this selected, it will show you the tax screen for you to review the taxes when you're doing your detail bill.
The Alerts and Logs tab. Do you want to enable TPS alerts? With this checked, your employees will be alerted when a task has been assigned to them in the client log, like the need to call or email a client, etc. Set live alerts in minutes. This is how often you want to set a reminder for them. So by default, the employee will get an alert every time they log in or out of TPS if a task has been assigned to them. But this allows you to also remind the employee when they are logged in. So if you choose 60 minutes, for example, then every hour the employee will get a pop-up reminding them about the tasks that are outstanding. Enable entries in client log from due dates. If you want TPS to log every single change that's made on the due date screen, click here. With that checked, every update done on the due date screen will be recorded in the client log due date tab. Enable due dates trace log. It's a good idea to always keep this checked. It tracks everything with due dates, but it's saved in a text file. It's more for TPS to be able to help later with any due date issues. Backups. This is where you establish where you want your database backups to be stored. So you just put in the path here by clicking the folder and choosing where you're going to be storing your backups. If you're using an SQL database, it'll default to the SQL management backup folder. And by checking here, set alert active, it will alert you after however many days that you put in here, so I have 7 here, that a backup needs to be done. So that means every 7 days I'm going to get an alert that I need to do a backup. Tax link. This tab allows you to link TPS to one of your tax programs. This will synchronize the client's address. So if this is linked, then if and when you change the client's address in your tax program, it'll automatically fill out or update the tax address tab in the client properties. So as soon as I click here, tax link active, you see a tax address tab showed up here. It wasn't there before. Now, TPS is going to use the client's social security number or social insurance number, the one that you put here in the user defined field. So you need to make sure it's in the very first field in client properties to identify the client in your tax program. So it's important that you put that number in your client's properties if you want to use this option. So after clicking the tax link active, you need to choose your tax program. Then you can browse for the path of where you have the tax file stored. Then click add path once you've found the correct location. Now you have the option to auto update the client's TPS main address to match what changes in the tax address tab. So anytime that that's updated, it would also change your main address for that client. But you might want to review that first. So it might be a good idea, instead of choosing this one here and checking that, it might be a better idea to use this option here. So as the tax address is updated here in coordination with your tax program, you could review it first and then copy it to main would mean that it would come over here and change this address. That might be a better option for you. That way you have a chance to review it before automatically just changing it based on what was changed in the tax program. And I think that pretty much covers it for the customize screen. Just make sure that you're always applying the changes and clicking OK.